Ancient deserts hold stone giants that whisper secrets of the stars. This is the mystery of 30 desert monuments, perfectly aligned with celestial timekeepers. These structures are not random ruins, but sophisticated observatories built by civilizations with a profound understanding of the cosmos. By the end of this journey, you will understand how ancient cultures mapped the heavens onto the earth with a precision that challenges our modern assumptions. We will uncover why a circle of stones in the Sahara could predict the summer solstice, and how a line of towers in Peru tracked the sun's yearly path with razor-sharp accuracy. Each site reveals a story of human ingenuity, where tracking the stars meant survival and connected communities to the divine. What does our own relationship with time and the sky tell us about ourselves? That lone traveler in the Sahara, standing where the solstice sun broke the horizon, experienced a connection that transcends centuries. It is a moment of sudden clarity, where stone and sky whisper a secret to the human heart. This is the core of archaeoastronomy, a field that marries the digging of archaeology with the star charts of astronomy. It asks not just who built these structures, but why they pointed them so precisely toward the heavens. As the renowned scholar Dr. Anthony Aveni suggests, these monuments are more than tombs or temples. They are libraries of stone, preserving an entire language of the stars. To understand them, we must learn to read that language. The basic principles are elegant in their simplicity. Ancient builders used the natural horizon as their giant ruler. They noted where the sun rose and set each day, tracking how these points slid north and south along the horizon with the seasons. The two extremes, the summer and winter solstices, became their anchor points. The equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, provided another fixed celestial marker. By lining up stones, carving sightlines, or building doorways to frame these specific events, they created a colossal, permanent calendar etched into the landscape. The desert itself was their perfect partner in this endeavor. With vast, unobstructed views and incredibly clear, dark skies free from the light pollution we know today, the heavens were a brilliant, active tapestry. This environment transformed these remote locations into ideal laboratories for observing the cosmos. But why go to such extraordinary effort? The reasons were both profoundly practical and deeply spiritual. Knowing the exact date of the solstice meant knowing when to plant crops or when seasonal rains would arrive. It was a matter of survival, yet these alignments also served a higher purpose. They connected the rhythm of human life to the grand, orderly dance of the cosmos, reinforcing spiritual beliefs about the universe's structure and humanity's place within it. So what drove these cultures to invest generations of labor into moving mountains of stone? It was the universal human impulse to measure time, to predict the future, and to find meaning in the infinite expanse above. That lone priest astronomer, watching a shadow creep across the sand, held the future of his people in his gaze. He was reading a celestial timekeeper, a cosmic clock built from the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. These were not abstract concepts, but practical, observed realities that dictated the rhythm of life. Renowned researcher Professor Clive Ruggles explains that for ancient societies, this astronomical knowledge was the very bedrock of civilization. It told them when to plant their seeds, when to harvest, and when to gather for sacred ceremonies, weaving the cosmos directly into the fabric of daily life. So, what exactly were these celestial timekeepers? They fell into three primary categories, each with its own unique rhythm and purpose. The sun was the most dominant, its annual journey north and south along the horizon marking the solstices and equinoxes, the pillars of the solar year. Then came the moon with its constantly shifting cycle of phases, ideal for tracking shorter periods like months. Finally, there were the fixed stars, whose predictable appearances and disappearances throughout the year served as both navigational guides and the foundation for myth. In ancient Egypt, for example, the first pre-dawn appearance of the star Sirius, known as its heliacal rising, was a desperately awaited event. It signaled the imminent flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of their agriculture. This was celestial timekeeping at its most vital, a direct line from the heavens to survival. But how did they track these movements with such precision without modern instruments? They mastered a technique called horizon astronomy. They used the natural landscape or stones they placed themselves to create fixed sightlines. A notch between two distant hills could be the perfect frame for the winter solstice sunset. A single, carefully positioned men here could cast a shadow that touched another stone only on the day of the equinox. This foundational understanding transforms these silent stone circles and lonely towers from mere monuments into sophisticated observatories. They are the physical proof of how ancient minds turned the vast, unpredictable desert and the endless sky above into a reliable, ticking clock. The Atacama Desert in Chile holds its secrets tight. In one of the driest places on our planet, vast geoglyphs stretch across the barren soil, their lines and figures preserved for thousands of years by the relentless aridity. These are not mere drawings, they are a time capsule, safeguarding an ancient understanding of the stars against the decay that consumes most other places. This is the profound role deserts played. They became the world's natural observatories. Historian Dr. John B. Carlson explains that deserts offer an unobstructed view of the horizon, making them ideal for tracking the subtle movements of celestial bodies over long periods. With minimal vegetation and often stable geological conditions, these landscapes provided a perfect, permanent canvas. The near-constant lack of cloud cover meant that every night the sky was a brilliant, predictable display. This consistency was crucial for the long-term observations needed to map the slow, grand cycles of the cosmos. But why did cultures choose such harsh, isolated environments? The isolation itself was a form of protection. Remote from bustling centers, these sacred sites were often spared the destruction of later development, leaving their alignments untouched for centuries. Furthermore, the challenge of desert life may have been the very catalyst for innovation. In a land where water was life and its arrival unpredictable, knowing the precise timing of seasonal rains was a matter of survival. This necessity drove the creation of precise calendars, turning astronomical observation from a philosophical pursuit into a practical tool for managing scarce resources and planning seasonal migrations. We see this brilliant adaptation in places like the Nabatean city of Petra, carved into the red rock of the Jordanian desert. There, builders designed temples and tombs so that on specific days, like the solstices, beams of sunlight would pierce the darkness to illuminate sacred inner chambers. This was astronomy woven directly into the fabric of their spiritual and daily life. Even the desert's harshness, its wind and sand, played a paradoxical role in preservation. While erosion is a constant threat, it has also acted as a guardian. Shifting sands have buried structures for millennia, shielding them from human interference and the elements, only to reveal them later with their original alignments miraculously intact. So how did these ancient astronomers transform a landscape we see as barren into a sophisticated cosmic instrument? They saw not emptiness but opportunity. They recognized the desert's clarity and stability as gifts, allowing them to build a lasting conversation between the earth and the sky. This profound relationship sets the stage for the monuments themselves, the stone giants that gave physical form to this celestial wisdom. Long before the pharaohs ruled the Nile, a different culture was making its mark in the sands of southern Egypt. Around 5,000 years before the Common Era, a group of nomadic cattle herders gathered at a place called Nabta Playa. This was not a random campsite. It was a sacred basin that filled with precious water during the brief, vital rainy season, and here they began to move stones. They arranged a circle of megaliths, some standing over 6 feet tall, in a pattern that seems simple at first glance. But this circle is now considered one of the world's oldest known astronomical observatories. These herders were tracking the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. They positioned specific stones to frame the exact point on the horizon where the sun would rise on that pivotal morning. This was their signal, a celestial announcement that the seasonal rains were coming, and it was time to drive their cattle to the newly filled lake. The circle was their calendar, carved directly into the desert floor. The astronomer and archaeologist Fred Wendorf, who led the team that discovered Nabta Playa, described it as a complex symbolic system embedded in the landscape. He saw it as more than a tool. It was a place of cattle worship and community gathering, where the rhythms of the sky, the earth, and human life were tied together in ritual. The construction reveals a startling sophistication. Beyond the main circle, they placed larger stones in lines that reached out toward the horizon. One particularly important slab was positioned to align with the zenith sun passage, a rare event when the sun passes directly overhead, casting no shadow at noon. This is a highly specific and difficult alignment to calculate, demonstrating an advanced understanding of the solar cycle. They even aligned other stones with key stars, like the bright constellations of Orion and Sirius, whose appearances in the night sky marked other important seasonal changes. Think of it as a prehistoric version of Stonehenge, but Nabta Playa is actually 1,000 years older. It stands as a unique and brilliant achievement in early Africa. So how did a society of nomadic herders without a written language develop such precise astronomical skills? The answer lies in generations of patient observation. They watched the sky season after season, year after year, passing their knowledge down orally until they could predict the cosmos with stone. This monument sets a high bar, a testament to the very dawn of celestial timekeeping. Perched on a barren ridge in the coastal desert of Peru, 13 stone towers stand in a silent, deliberate line. This is Chankillo, a 2,300-year-old solar observatory, so precise it could tell you the date simply by where the sun appeared. For the ancient Chasma Sechan culture, this was not a secret knowledge reserved for a few elite priests. Researcher Ivan Gezi, who led its modern study, called it a public calendarial device accessible to the entire community. From a specific viewing platform to the west, an observer would watch the sunset march steadily along the crest of the hill, disappearing behind a different tower every few days. The entire solar year unfolded across this stone ruler. The endpoints of the line perfectly framed the December and June solstices, the shortest and longest days, while the central towers marked the equinoxes when day and night were equal. This architectural precision was no accident. The builders spaced and oriented each tower with incredible care, creating a solar calendar permanently etched into the landscape. In an environment where water was scarce and the margin for error was slim, knowing the exact solar date was a matter of survival. It told farmers when to plant their maize, a crop dependent on specific seasonal conditions. It also dictated the timing of major religious festivals, weaving the worship of the sun directly into the agricultural cycle. The entire society ran on this celestial schedule. Chankillo's rediscovery in the 19th century initially baffled archaeologists who could not decipher its purpose. It was only in the early 2000s that Gezi and his team pieced together the puzzle. realizing they were looking at the earliest known solar observatory in the Americas. This revelation completely reshaped our understanding of pre-Inca science, proving that sophisticated astronomy flourished here long before the Inca Empire. Today, you can stand on that same Western viewing platform and witness the solstice for yourself. As the sun sinks exactly behind the year's final tower, the connection to those ancient sky watchers becomes visceral. The stone still works, the cosmic clock still ticks. What does this tell us about our own relationship with time? Chankillo embodies a universal human drive to measure our existence, to find order in the cosmos, and to build structures that outlive generations, all to answer a simple, profound question. What day is it? High on a Wyoming mountain plateau, a circle of stones rests against the vast sky. This is the Big Horn Medicine Wheel, a sacred aligner built by the Plains tribes on arid, windswept ground. Picture a spiritual leader standing at its center centuries ago, his prayers rising not just to the heavens but aligned with them. He watched for the heliacal rising of the bright star Aldebaran, its first pre-dawn appearance marking the time for the annual summer bison hunt and sacred ceremonies. This wheel was not merely a place of worship, it was a sophisticated celestial map. Anthropologist Dr. John A. Eddy meticulously documented its precise alignments, revealing that its stone spokes and cairns point unerringly to the summer solstice sunrise and the risings of pivotal stars like Sirius and Rigel. He concluded it served as a celestial map for navigation and ceremonial cycles, deeply embedded in Native American cosmology. Its construction is elegantly purposeful. A central cairn, a pile of stones, acts as the hub. From it, lines of stones radiate outward like spokes to form a great wheel, with specific peripheral cairns marking key astronomical sightlines. Each of these outer stones was a calendar marker, indicating when a certain star would appear or when the sun would reach its solstice peak. For tribes like the Crow and Shoshone, this was the heart of their spiritual and practical life. They used the site for vision quests, seeking personal guidance, and for seasonal gatherings that unified the community under the stars they all shared. This knowledge was not unique to Big Horn. Similar medicine wheels dot North America, from Canada's plains to other parts of the Rocky Mountains. While they share the circular form, each has its own unique alignments, reflecting the specific astronomical knowledge and cultural needs of the people who built them. This reveals a continent-wide tradition of horizon astronomy, adapted with regional variations. Today, the wheel faces the quiet threat of modern encroachment, from erosion to the subtle impacts of visitors. Yet its story is far from over. It remains a living heritage site. Every summer, tribal members still gather there for ceremonies, continuing a chain of observance that stretches back across centuries. How do such sites bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern reverence for the stars? They remind us that the human need to find meaning in the night sky is a timeless constant. This stone compass in the high desert does not just point to stars. It points to a living connection between the Earth and the cosmos, a relationship that continues to inspire awe and guidance. A single, unassuming ring of stones rests in the Mojave Desert, easily missed by those in search of grander ruins. This is the Upton Stone Circle, a modest arrangement of dark volcanic rock that belies its sophisticated function. While it lacks the towering scale of Chankillo or the sprawling complexity of Nabta Playa, its precision is no less remarkable. Key stones within the circle are set to frame the exact point on the horizon where the sun sets on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. For the indigenous peoples of this region, likely ancestors of the Kemahuvi, this was not an abstract alignment. It was a practical, vital signal. local archaeologist Dr. Jane Smith proposes that these stones guided seasonal movements for hunting and gathering in a landscape where every resource was precious. The winter solstice sunset may have indicated the time to move to lower, warmer elevations or to begin a specific harvest, tying the cosmos directly to survival. The circle's design is elegantly simple yet deeply intentional. Beyond the primary solar markers, other stones appear to align with the lunar standstills, the points where the moon reaches the extremes of its own, more complex cycle. This suggests a calendar that tracked not just the solar year, but longer periods of time, integrating both the sun and the moon into a single earthly diagram. How did researchers confirm these alignments? The process combines old-fashioned fieldwork with cutting-edge technology. Teams of archaeologists and astronomers conduct precise field surveys, using compasses and theodolites to measure the angles between stones and the distant horizon. They then feed this data into computer simulations that can recreate the sky as it appeared thousands of years ago, verifying that a specific gap between two rocks did indeed frame the solstice sun. This digital confirmation has been crucial for a site like Upton, where debate continues over its exact age and the full scope of its purpose. Some see it primarily as a ceremonial space, a place for rituals that reinforce the community's connection to the cosmos. Others argue its function was overwhelmingly practical, a tool for managing life in an unforgiving environment. This debate is enriched by the site's ecological context. The timing of the solstice would have coincided with subtle shifts in the desert. The flowering of a specific cactus, the migration of a game animal, or the arrival of brief rains were all events woven into this celestial schedule. The circle acted as a central point where the community could gather to observe the sky together, strengthening social bonds through a shared, critical knowledge. One modern astronomer described visiting the circle on a solstice evening as the sun dipped perfectly between the two guide stones, casting long, sharp shadows across the circle. The desert fell into a profound silence. In that moment, the millennia separating them from the builders seemed to vanish. Why do these smaller, localized monuments hold such intrigue? They remind us that the drive to understand the cosmos was not confined to great empires. It flourished in every community that looked to the stars and asked, what happens next? Thousands of stones march across the French landscape like a silent, petrified army. The Karnak alignments are a megalithic mystery on a scale that defies easy comprehension. Over 3,000 standing stones, some towering over 20 feet tall, are arranged in long, parallel rows that stretch for miles near the coast of Brittany. While this region is green today, in the Neolithic era it was a much more open, almost coastal desert-like environment, providing the clear horizons these builders needed. Their purpose was not random, but a breathtakingly precise alignment with the moon's most complex dance. While the sun follows a simple, yearly path, the moon's movements are far more intricate. It has an 18.6-year cycle where its rising and setting points along the horizon swing between a northern and southern extreme, events known as the major and minor lunar standstills. The researcher Alexander Thom dedicated his life to studying these stones, proposing that they formed a colossal lunar calendar. By sighting along specific rows, an ancient astronomer could track the moon's slow progression across the sky, using the stones as fixed markers to predict its extreme positions years in advance. This knowledge was power, for it allowed them to forecast eclipses, those awe-inspiring moments when the moon or sun was swallowed by shadow. The Grand Menhir Brisset, now a fallen giant that was once the largest standing stone in Europe, is a key piece of this puzzle. When it stood, it may have acted as a central foresight, its peak aligning with the moon's southernmost rising point over a distant notch in the landscape during a major standstill. Other stones and rows are oriented toward solar events, like the equinoxes, creating a calendar that integrated both of the sky's great lights. For the people who built Karnak, the moon was likely a powerful deity. Its influence on the ocean's tides, so visible on this very coast, would have been linked to cycles of fertility, both in the sea and on the land. This astronomical knowledge was woven directly into their survival. Knowing the lunar cycle meant knowing the best times for planting, for when fish would spawn, and for holding ceremonies to honor the forces that governed their world. The construction itself was a monumental feat of social organization. Moving stones weighing tens of tons required not just brute strength, but sophisticated engineering. They likely used a system of wooden sledges, rollers, and levers, coordinating the labor of hundreds of people over generations. This was a long-term project for a culture thinking in terms of centuries, not seasons. Millennia of erosion and shifting soil have obscured some of the original alignments, making the puzzle harder to solve. Yet the stones still hold their magic. There are accounts of modern observers watching a lunar eclipse from within the alignments. As the Earth's shadow crept across the moon's face, the event unfolded exactly as the ancient sightlines predicted, a testament to their enduring accuracy. How did these prehistoric astronomers achieve such long-term precision without any written records or modern tools? Their tool was patience, a tradition of observation passed down through countless generations, allowing them to perceive patterns in the cosmos that we can now only see with computers. Karnak stands as a powerful reminder that the drive to build celestial timekeepers was a global phenomenon, uniting desert, mountain, and coast in a shared human quest to measure the heavens. Deep in the Utah desert, the ground itself tells a story of two ancient worlds colliding. The Moab giant site is a landscape where the footsteps of dinosaurs are frozen in stone, right beside the deliberate markings of ancient sky watchers. Here, the ancestral Puebloan and Fremont cultures saw not just a barren expanse, but a canvas where the Earth's deep past met the cycles of the heavens. They transformed this place into a hybrid observatory, weaving together geology and astronomy into a single, profound narrative. Archaeologist Dr. Stephen Sims studied the area extensively, pointing out that the integration of fossil tracks into celestial alignments indicates a deep cultural narrative connecting the land, the sky, and time itself. For these people, the giant three-toed dinosaur footprints were not mere curiosities. They were likely seen as the sacred imprints of powerful ancestral beings or mythic creatures, their presence sanctifying the entire location. This belief system was physically mapped onto the cosmos through precise stone arrangements and petroglyphs. Specific spiral carvings on the rock faces are positioned so that a dagger of sunlight pierces their center only on the day of the summer solstice. Other stone circles seem to track the lunar phases, their shadows shifting with the moon's slow dance. This was more than a calendar, it was a place where astronomy met mythology. The practical needs of survival in this arid climate were inseparable from this spiritual view. Knowing the exact timing of the solstices and equinoxes told these communities when to plant their crops in the narrow seasonal windows or when to move to higher grounds for piñon nut harvests. The site likely served as a crucial gathering point along well-established trade routes, a place where people from different groups could come together not only to exchange goods but to share knowledge and participate in communal rituals that reaffirmed their connection to the cosmos. The creative adaptability on display is stunning. Instead of building towering monuments, they used what the land provided, enhancing natural rock formations and even prehistoric footprints to create a functional and sacred space. This approach reveals a cosmology that saw no separation between the earthly and the celestial, the ancient and the present. Today, that connection is not lost. People still gather at the Moab giants during the solstices, watching as the sun recreates the same light show it has for over 1,000 years. In that moment, the divide between past and present narrows to a sliver. How do monuments that merge natural and human-made elements enrich our understanding of ancient cosmology? They show us that the drive to find meaning was not about conquering nature, but about listening to it, learning its rhythms, and seeing our own small stories reflected in the vast, interconnected tapestry of the sky, the stone, and even the footsteps of giants. Stretching across the deserts of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, vast stone structures trace strange patterns on the earth, visible only from the air. These are the desert kites, colossal formations of low walls that stretch for miles, converging on central enclosures like giant arrows pointing toward a hidden target. For a long time, their purpose seemed obvious. They were massive animal traps used to corral herds of gazelle and ibex during communal hunts. But a deeper mystery lies in their precise orientation. Why do the long, guiding walls of many kites point so deliberately toward specific points on the horizon? Researcher Dr. Remy Crassard has put forward a fascinating hypothesis, suggesting these may have served dual purposes, guiding herds based on stellar cues while functioning as communal hunting grounds. The kites were not just fences on the ground, they were arrows in the sky, aligned with the rising of key stars that signaled crucial turning points in the year. For instance, the bright star Capella, its first pre-dawn appearance in the autumn, would have been a vital celestial signal. Its heliacal rising likely indicated the start of the annual migration for certain species, telling nomadic groups exactly when to position themselves at these strategic kites. This was a calendar carved into the landscape on a staggering scale, blending practical survival with a profound understanding of the cosmos. The ancient Bedouin cultures who built these structures were masters of adaptation, their entire lives synchronized with the rhythms of the desert. Their survival depended on predicting the movements of both animals and weather patterns with flawless accuracy. Building the kites was a monumental technological feat in itself, requiring sophisticated social organization to plan, construct, and maintain these sprawling stone lines across generations. The debate among scholars today enriches this picture. Some archaeologists maintain a purely functional view, seeing the kites as nothing more than highly effective hunting tools. Others, however, see a deeper symbolic layer. The very act of aligning a massive communal project with the stars suggests a worldview where the practical and the spiritual were seamlessly intertwined, where hunting was not just a matter of food, but a ritual aligned with the heavens. Modern technology is now unlocking these ancient secrets. Through satellite imagery and geographic information systems, researchers can map thousands of kites with incredible precision, analyzing their orientations against digital recreations of the ancient sky. One compelling case study is a kite near Jubba. Here, the main axis of the structure is aligned perfectly with the winter solstice sunrise. This was not a coincidence. The solstice marked a pivotal moment in the year, a time of deep symbolic importance that may have dictated the timing of the most significant communal hunts. So we are left with a profound question. Could these kites represent an early form of integrated land use and astronomy? They challenge our modern tendency to separate science from survival, the practical from the sacred. In the vast silence of the Arabian desert, these stone corrals whisper of a time when tracking a star was as important as tracking prey, and the sky itself was the ultimate guide. A brilliant splash of red, white, and black paint transforms a limestone rock shelter in the Texas desert. The white Shaman panel is not just ancient art, It is a storybook of the cosmos, painted by the Lower Picos people over 4,000 years ago. This vibrant mural comes alive with the sun's touch, its figures and symbols illuminated by precise shafts of light during the equinoxes. Anthropologist Dr. Carolyn Boyd has dedicated her work to decoding this masterpiece, describing it as a cosmological map, encoding shamanic journeys and agricultural cycles through celestial imagery. She sees in these painted figures not random deities, but representations of stars and mythic ancestors, their positions on the rock corresponding to their places in the sky. The entire panel is a complex narrative of creation, where the shaman's spiritual voyage to the spirit world is mirrored by the sun's journey across the heavens. The alignments are breathtakingly deliberate. On the mornings of the spring and fall equinox, a dagger of sunlight pierces the shelter's opening. It crawls across the rock face, its beam perfectly highlighting a series of red dots that may chart a celestial path, before finally illuminating a central, enigmatic white figure, the white shaman itself. This was not a public clock like Chankillo, but a sacred, restricted space. Here, a shaman would have acted as the community's intermediary, interpreting the sun's message on these pivotal days when day and night hang in perfect balance. This celestial event signaled a time of transition in the real world. For a society of hunter-gatherers, the equinox likely marked the imminent arrival of seasonal rains or the readiness of key plants like agave or prickly pear for harvest. The shaman's reading of the panel provided both a spiritual and a practical schedule, telling the people when to move, when to gather, and when to give thanks. The artistic techniques themselves are a testament to its importance. The artists used mineral pigments, iron oxide for red, calcite for white, and charcoal for black mixed with plant binders to create paints that have defied millennia of sun and wind. Their endurance speaks to the sacred nature of this place. Similar rock art sites dot the region, but the white shaman panel is unique in its complexity and its precise solar alignment, suggesting it was a central node in a wider cosmological understanding. Today, that connection is not lost. Every equinox, a small group of people, including researchers and members of the modern indigenous community, gather in the pre-dawn darkness. They wait in silence as the first rays of sun enter the shelter, watching the ancient light show unfold exactly as it did for its creators. In that moment, the painted figures seem to breathe, and the 4,000-year-old calendar still marks the time. How does art serve as a medium for transmitting astronomical knowledge? It proves that the human need to map the heavens is not just a scientific impulse, but a deeply creative one, weaving the threads of survival, spirit, and story into a single, enduring image. A colossal figure stretches across the barren plains of South Australia, a modern giant born in 1998. The Marree man depicts an indigenous hunter holding a throwing stick, so vast it can only be seen in full from the air. This is not an ancient relic, but its mysterious creation has sparked a compelling question. Could its sweeping outlines be a deliberate echo of the stars above? Some researchers, like Dr. Donald Pate, have noted that the figure's extended arm and the angle of his tool seem to point toward key constellations in the southern hemisphere sky, particularly the iconic Southern Cross. If this alignment is intentional, it represents a fascinating revival of celestial wayfinding, a modern geoglyph tapping into an ancient tradition. The controversy around its origin only deepens the mystery. No one has ever claimed responsibility for this enormous earthwork, carved into the desert crust with such precision. Was it a solitary artist, a clandestine group, or an elaborate hoax? This debate unfolds against the rich backdrop of Aboriginal astronomical knowledge, a system where the desert and the sky were one. For millennia, indigenous Australians used songlines, intricate oral maps that wove terrestrial landmarks with celestial narratives. The rising of the emu in the Milky Way, for instance, signaled the time to gather emu eggs. The Marree man, whether created by an outsider or not, sits directly within this cultural landscape, forcing a conversation about who has the right to depict such sacred knowledge. The sheer scale of its construction is a marvel of modern effort. Surveyors and pilots studying the figure have described the daunting logistics. The lines were carved by bulldozers, creating trenches so deep you could stand in them, and the entire figure spans a distance greater than 3 kilometers. It required not just machinery, but a sophisticated understanding of surveying to translate a small drawing into a perfectly proportioned giant on the ground. This technical prowess mirrors the ambition of ancient builders, albeit with different tools. Since its sudden appearance, the geoglyph has become an unexpected tourist attraction, drawing visitors to a remote part of the outback. It has sparked both admiration and unease, raising issues of cultural appropriation while simultaneously igniting public interest in the profound star lore of the first peoples. So we are left to wonder, can a monument born in the modern era, shrouded in secrecy, still speak the ancient language of the cosmos? The Marree man may not hold the same cultural authenticity as a stone circle built over generations, but its very existence proves that the human impulse to carve our questions into the earth and to look for answers in the desert sky is a story that is far from over. A desert floor near the Colorado River holds giant secrets. Scraped into the dark, rocky surface are colossal figures of humans, serpents, and spirals, so vast their forms only resolve when viewed from the sky above. These are the Blythe Intaglios, California's mysterious desert giants. For the Mojave and Quechan peoples, these geoglyphs were far more than art. They were a celestial map and a sacred stage. The largest human figure stretches over 170 feet, its limbs positioned with deliberate intent. Archaeologist Dr. Harry Casey has proposed that these were used in initiation ceremonies tied to seasonal cycles, embedding astronomy into identity and tradition. The figure's outstretched arms, for instance, appear to frame the rising point of the sun on the summer solstice, while another shape may point toward the heliacal rising of the brilliant star Sirius. This was not abstract alignment, it was practical cosmology. The first appearance of Sirius would have coincided with the annual flooding of the Colorado River, a life-giving event that renewed the soil and signaled the time to plant crops. The geoglyphs transformed the entire landscape into a cosmic calendar, telling people when to expect the water that would ensure their survival. These giant forms are deeply woven into the creation stories of the tribes. They are seen as representations of Mastamho, the creator god, and other mythic beings who descended from the stars to shape the world. To walk near the figures was to tread on sacred ground, a place where the boundary between the earthly and the celestial grew thin. Initiation ceremonies held here would have aligned a young person's coming of age with the turning of the cosmic wheel, binding individual identity to the eternal rhythms of the universe. Preserving these fragile lines is an ongoing challenge. The geoglyphs are threatened by erosion and the potential damage from unaware visitors driving over the delicate desert pavement. Efforts to protect them include fencing and educational programs, ensuring these immense drawings are not lost. Dating them has proven difficult, but soil analysis and studies of rock varnish suggest they could be over 1,000 years old, a testament to their enduring cultural importance. Even today, the site is not a forgotten relic. Tribal communities sometimes gather here for festivals and ceremonies, especially during the solstices or other key celestial events. During these gatherings, the ancient alignments are reaffirmed. the stories are retold, and the geoglyphs resume their living role as a bridge between the community and the cosmos. How do geoglyphs transform the landscape into a cosmic canvas? They reveal a world view where the Earth itself is a participant in the celestial dance, a surface ready to be inscribed with the stories of the stars. The Blythe Intaglios are a powerful reminder that celestial timekeeping is not just a science of measurement, but an art of connection, drawn on the grandest possible scale. The Sajama lines stretch across the Bolivian Altiplano like a vast, ancient spiderweb. Over 16,000 individual paths carved into the earth by the Aymara people cover an area of nearly 8,000 square miles. This network is so immense it dwarfs the entire footprint of the pyramids of Giza, a testament to a different kind of ambition. These are not random trails. Specific lines point unearly toward the horizon where the sun rises on the solstices, while others track the moon's extreme standstill positions. Some of the most intriguing pathways align perfectly with the first pre-dawn appearance of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial event that signaled the start of the planting season. Anthropologist Dr. Johann Reinhard, who studied the lines extensively, called this a sacred geography, connecting earthly sites to celestial events in the Andes. He saw the entire landscape as a living map where every line and mountain peak held meaning. The Aymara worldview saw no separation between the physical and spiritual realms. The lines physically connected villages to mountain peaks, which were themselves considered powerful deities or apus. These peaks acted as natural horizon markers, their silhouettes providing fixed points against which to measure the slow dance of the stars. The lines were pilgrimage routes walked by generations during rituals honoring Pachamama, the Earth Mother, and the mountain gods who controlled the weather and water. This was astronomy in motion, a calendar you did not just observe, but one you physically traversed with your own footsteps. How did they create such a colossal design? The construction technique was elegantly simple yet required immense communal effort. They did not build up but rather scraped away. By removing the dark, oxidized surface stones, they revealed the lighter, sandy soil beneath, creating stark, contrasting lines that are still visible today. This was a project of subtraction, a communal clearing of paths that connected the people to their gods and their food supply. Studying such an expansive site presents enormous challenges for modern researchers. The lines are best seen from the air, a perspective the builders never had. This forces archaeologists to piece together the system from ground level, walking the paths to understand the sight lines from the Aymara's own vantage point. The true depth of their knowledge is preserved in oral tradition. One story tells of a modern Aymara elder who was asked about the lines. He did not need a map or a satellite photo. He walked to a specific intersection, pointed toward a distant, snow-capped peak, and explained that his ancestors walked this path when a certain star touched the mountain summit, a ceremony to ensure the llamas would bear healthy offspring. This living memory transforms the lines from a mysterious archaeological puzzle into a functional, spiritual, and agricultural guide. How did these cultures coordinate such massive projects without a king or an emperor commanding them? The Sajama lines are the ultimate expression of collective effort. This was not the work of a centralized state, but of countless communities over countless generations, all contributing to a shared vision of the cosmos. They reveal that the drive to build celestial timekeepers was a unifying force, a common project that wove scattered villages into a single, sky-watching tapestry. From high above the Peruvian desert, the land reveals a secret language written on an epic scale. The Nazca lines are a sprawling canvas of geometric shapes and giant animal figures, a spider, a hummingbird, a monkey, all etched into the arid plateau with such precision they defy comprehension from the ground. Created by the Nazca culture over a 1,000-year period, these geoglyphs are more than art. They form one of the world's most ambitious astronomical observatories. The straight lines, some stretching for miles across the plain, are not random tracks. Many align perfectly with the point on the horizon where the sun sets on the December solstice, while others frame the rising positions of brilliant stars like those in the constellation Orion. The German mathematician Maria Reich devoted her life to protecting and studying these lines, becoming their most passionate guardian. She argued they were a giant calendar, a sacred text written in the earth itself, designed to communicate with the gods and to regulate the most vital of all rituals in this dry land, those concerning water. The alignments show a sophisticated understanding of the sky. Certain lines act as sight lines, pointing directly to distant mountain peaks on the horizon. On key dates, the sun would rise or set directly over these peaks as seen from the end of the line, turning the entire landscape into a cosmic trigger. The animal figures, too, may have held celestial meaning. The spider could be a representation of a constellation, while the monkey might symbolize a star group linked to seasonal rains, weaving their mythology directly into the stars above. Creating these precise figures required remarkable skill with simple tools. The Nazca people likely used wooden stakes and cords to plot out the designs, then removed the dark, sun-baked surface stones to reveal the lighter-colored soil beneath. This was not the work of a few individuals, but a communal effort spanning generations, a shared project that united the community under a common cosmological vision. They saw these lines as sacred pathways, routes that deities and spirits could travel, linking the earth to the heavens. The desert itself was their perfect partner. The extreme aridity, the lack of rain and wind, has preserved these shallow scratches in the earth for 2,000 years, a stability that would be impossible in almost any other environment. Yet, for all we understand, deep mysteries remain. Were the lines also used for pilgrimage, guiding people to ceremonial centers? Did they serve as a massive loom for weaving rituals, with the lines representing threads to the cosmos? During the December solstice today, local communities still gather near the lines. They hold celebrations that honor the sun, watching as it sets in perfect alignment with the ancient stone pathways. In that moment, the past is not a distant echo but a living presence. What can the Nazca lines teach us about the intersection of art, religion, and science? They show us that these were never separate pursuits. For the Nazca, drawing a giant hummingbird on the earth was a scientific act of charting the stars, a religious act of calling upon the gods, and a profound artistic expression, all woven together into a single, breathtaking statement of human ingenuity. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a desert giant, its four sides facing the cardinal directions with an accuracy that still baffles engineers today. This was no accidental feat of construction, but a deliberate act of cosmic alignment. Egyptologist Dr. Mark Lehner explains that these alignments reflect a belief in cosmic order, where the pharaoh's soul joined the circumpolar stars. The builders achieved this by meticulously observing star transits, tracking a single star as it crossed the meridian to establish a perfect north-south line. This foundational orientation locked the entire structure into the mechanics of the heavens, but the precision did not stop at the base. Deep within the Great Pyramid, narrow shafts angle upward from the king's and queen's chambers. These were not for ventilation but for the soul. One shaft targets the circumpolar stars, specifically the star we know as Polaris, which the Egyptians saw as an eternal, undying realm. Another points directly toward Orion's belt, a constellation they associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. These shafts served as celestial pathways, guiding the pharaoh's spirit on its final, star-bound journey. The entire complex was a machine for resurrection, engineered from stone and starlight. This astronomical knowledge was the domain of the priest astronomers, who were also the architects. They were masters of both the spiritual and the scientific, their observations dictating the rhythm of society. The annual flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, coincided with the heliacal rising of Sirius. This celestial event signaled the start of the new year and the season of inundation, a cycle of death and renewal mirrored in the pharaoh's own passage to the stars. The pyramids, therefore, were not isolated tombs but the heart of a system that synchronized agriculture, religion, and royal power with the cosmos. Some researchers have even proposed that the pyramids themselves could have been used as observational tools before their completion, with their smooth, sloping sides acting as giant sighting platforms for tracking celestial movements. Today, you can witness a modern echo of this ancient alignment. On the equinoxes, the sun sets precisely between the two larger pyramids of Khafre and Khufu when viewed from the Sphinx. This spectacle, witnessed by thousands, connects our modern awe directly to the profound vision of the builders. How did astronomy shape the architecture of one of the world's most iconic sites? The pyramids answer not with words but with geometry, their silent stones forever turned toward the stars they sought to emulate. The sun's first ray was a blade of light slicing through the desert darkness, a signal for the priests of Karnak to begin their chant. At the summer solstice, that single beam did not merely illuminate the temple, it traveled a sacred path, racing down the main axis to ignite the inner sanctum where the statue of the god Amun-Ra resided. This was no accident of architecture. The Temple of Karnak was engineered as a colossal solar instrument, a sanctuary where stone channeled the power of the heavens. The main axis of the temple complex is precisely oriented toward the winter solstice sunrise, while other structures and subsidiary shrines track the moon's complex cycles and the risings of key stars like Sirius. As archaeologist Dr. Elizabeth Blythe has noted, this alignment was a political and spiritual statement, reinforcing the pharaoh's divine connection to the sun god Ra and blending astronomy directly with state ideology. This celestial design evolved over more than 1,000 years, with each successive pharaoh adding halls, pylons, and obelisks, refining the astronomical precision of the whole. The towering obelisks themselves were not just monuments, they functioned as massive gnomons, their long shadows tracing the hours across the temple courtyards, acting as giant sundials for the priesthood. These technological innovations served a deeply ritualistic purpose. The annual Opet festival, a pivotal event for the renewal of the pharaoh's divine power, was timed by these celestial events. The statue of Amun-Ra was carried in a ceremonial bark from Karnak to the temple at Luxor, a journey that coincided with the Nile's flood and specific stellar alignments, weaving the rhythms of the river, the sky, and kingship into a single, unbreakable thread. Even today, that ancient connection is palpable. During the solstice, modern visitors gather in the pre-dawn chill within the great hypostyle hall. As the sun crests the horizon and its light floods through the stone gateways, piercing the forest of columns, a hush falls over the crowd. The sheer theatricality of the moment is overwhelming. How do such precise alignments transform a space? At Karnak, the architecture does not just point to the sky, it pulls the sky down to earth, making the divine tangible, a sensory experience of light, shadow, and stone that resonates across 40 centuries. Deep within the Nubian cliffs, a solar miracle was carved from solid rock. The great temple of Abu Simbel was engineered so that twice a year, around October 22nd and February 22nd, a beam of sunlight would travel over 200 feet through its dark halls. It would pierce the inner sanctuary and illuminate the faces of three gods seated in the eternal gloom, all except one, the god of darkness, who remained forever in shadow. This was no random occurrence. These dates are believed to mark the pharaoh Ramses II's birthday and his coronation day, a celestial celebration of his divine right to rule. The Egyptologist Dr. Labib Habachi called it a monumental clock, harnessing the sun to glorify the king's divinity. The entire temple is a masterclass in precision alignment. Its main axis is oriented so the sun's rays strike at the exact angle needed for this biannual event, a calculation that required an intimate understanding of the solar cycle. Even the smaller temple dedicated to the goddess Hathor, built for Ramses's beloved wife Nefertari, incorporates its own solar connections, ensuring the royal couple was forever linked to the cosmic order. The cultural significance was profound. For the ancient Egyptians, this was not just a light show. It was the sun god Amun-Ra physically renewing the pharaoh's power, a public demonstration that the king was in direct communion with the cosmos. This personalized celestial timekeeping served a powerful political narrative, using the undeniable truth of the sun's path to legitimize a mortal man's claim to godhood. The practical astronomy involved was staggering. The architects had to calculate the sun's changing altitude throughout the year, and then carve the temple's axis and doorways to filter the light with pinpoint accuracy, all without the tools we take for granted today. This feat was nearly lost in the 20th century when the rising waters of the Aswan High Dam threatened to submerge the temples forever. In an unprecedented international effort, the entire complex was cut into massive blocks, meticulously moved and reassembled on higher ground. Engineers and archaeologists worked for years, using complex calculations to ensure the original orientation was preserved to the fraction of a degree. The moment of truth came after the relocation. As the dates of the solar alignment approached, there was a global anxiety. Had they succeeded? When the sun finally pierced the relocated temple's interior, illuminating the gods just as it had for over 3,000 years, the emotional impact was overwhelming. It was a triumph of modern engineering honoring ancient genius. What does Abu Simbel reveal about the personalized nature of celestial timekeeping? It shows us that the cosmos could be harnessed not just for community survival, but for individual legacy, transforming a king's story into a permanent feature of the solar system itself. The stones of Nabta Playa were not an isolated phenomenon, but a foundational chapter in a much longer story. This ancient calendar in the Sahara may have planted the seeds for one of history's most iconic astronomical cultures, ancient Egypt. Researcher Dr. J. McKim Malville has proposed that the site was a regional center for celestial education, passing down techniques through generations. The profound understanding of cardinal directions and solar cycles demonstrated at Nabta Playa could very well have influenced the later, breathtaking precision of the pyramids. The same meticulous attention to the sun's path, first seen in the simple stone circles of the desert, seems to echo in the perfect north-south orientation of Giza's monuments, suggesting a lineage of knowledge that traveled with people over centuries. Building this sophisticated observatory required more than just scattered nomads. It points to a complex society with defined social roles. There were likely astronomer priests who interpreted the sky, engineers who planned the alignments, and organizers who coordinated the labor to move multi-ton stones across the desert. This was a community investing in a permanent, shared vision of the cosmos. Their world, however, was changing. The climate began to shift, and the once reliable lake at Nabta Playa slowly dried up, turning the fertile basin back into barren desert. This environmental pressure likely forced the community to abandon their sacred site and migrate, possibly carrying their astronomical knowledge with them toward the Nile Valley. This connection is not merely speculative. We see similar traditions across Africa. In Kenya, the Namuratunga pillars, erected by Cushitic speakers around 300 BCE, are aligned with key stars, proving that Nabta Playa was part of a continent-wide tapestry of celestial observation. Modern technology allows us to peer even deeper into this past. Using computer models, archaeologists can simulate the ancient sky above Nabta Playa, stripping away millennia of stellar drift to confirm that its stones align not just with solstice sunrises, but with specific stars like Sirius, whose importance would later become central to Egyptian timekeeping. The memory of the place lingers even today. There is a modern Bedouin tale that speaks of the stones as the footprints of a giant who once strode across the land, marking the seasons with his steps. This story, passed down orally, is a beautiful echo of the site's original purpose. How does Nabta Playa challenge our timeline of astronomical development? It forces us to look further back, to recognize that the drive to build celestial timekeepers did not begin with the great empires, but with the patient, persistent observations of desert herders who first learned to write their calendar in stone. Carved from granite and standing silent on the vast Mongolian steppe, the deer stones are more than ancient art. These imposing pillars, some towering over 3 meters tall, are dotted across a landscape that blurs the line between grassland and desert. Their surfaces are covered with intricate carvings of leaping deer, their antlers stylized into swirling patterns that seem to reach for the sky, alongside circles believed to represent the sun and moon. For the Bronze Age nomads of the slab grave culture, these stones were sacred waypoints in a world without borders, aligning the rhythms of their lives with the cosmos above. Archaeologist Dr. William Fitzhugh has spent decades studying them, describing how they embody a shamanic worldview where animals and stars guide the spirit journey. The stones were not merely decorative, they were functional celestial instruments. Specific stones are oriented to frame the rising sun on the summer solstice, while the carved circles and lines may map out constellations like the Big Dipper, a crucial navigational marker in the northern sky. This was astronomy on the move, designed for people who followed their herds across immense distances. The stones likely served as ceremonial centers for sky worship and funeral rites, often erected near burial mounds to connect the departed with the eternal cycles of the heavens. Their practical utility was undeniable. For a nomadic society, knowing the precise solar date was essential for coordinating seasonal migrations to summer and winter pastures. The appearance of a certain star above a particular stone could signal the time to break camp and move, ensuring the survival of their livestock. This knowledge was power embedded directly into the landscape. The artistic styles of the deer stones vary fascinatingly from region to region, reflecting the local clans and their unique interpretations of the cosmos. In the Gobi, the deer appear more elongated and abstract, while in northern Mongolia, the carvings are denser, almost covering the entire stone in a celestial tapestry. This regional variation shows a shared tradition adapted by decentralized communities, a common language of stone and sky spoken with different dialects. Preserving these granite sentinels is a constant battle against a harsh climate. The freezing winters, scorching summers, and relentless wind slowly erode the delicate carvings, threatening to silence their messages. One modern Mongolian astronomer, Dr. Tserendorj Gun Ojav, has dedicated his life to documenting the stones. He recounts a story of finding a fallen deer stone in a remote valley. Using his knowledge of the stars and a handheld compass, he confirmed its alignment with the winter solstice sunrise. In that moment, he felt a direct connection to the ancient sky watchers who had positioned it millennia ago, a thread of understanding stretching across time. How do nomadic monuments differ from their sedentary counterparts? They are not colossal, permanent observatories like the pyramids, but portable knowledge made permanent. The deer stones demonstrate a profound adaptability, proving that you do not need a fixed city to map the heavens. You only need a clear sky, a sharp eye, and a sacred stone to mark your place in the universe. Scattered across the vast expanse of the Libyan desert lie fields of a mysterious yellow-green glass, polished smooth by millions of years of wind. This is not ordinary glass, but Libyan desert glass, a substance forged in the heart of a cosmic cataclysm. And near these otherworldly fields, ancient stone circles and cairns stand in silent testimony, their alignments pointing toward the heavens with a precision that suggests these two phenomena, the celestial and the terrestrial, were deeply connected. Geologist Dr. Vincenzo de Michel, who studied the glass extensively, proposed that it may have been seen as a celestial gift incorporated into timekeeping practices. The builders, perhaps the enigmatic Garamonte civilization or an even earlier culture, likely witnessed this glass scattered like frozen lightning across the sand and understood it as a direct message from the gods, a physical piece of the sky fallen to earth. They constructed their stone rings and markers with deliberate intent, orienting them to frame the rising of key star clusters like the Pleiades or the belt of Orion. In a land defined by its harshness, the appearance of these stars signaled the changing seasons, dictating the movements of trade caravans along the trans-Saharan routes that snaked through this very region. These sites were more than observatories, they were sacred way stations where the practical need for navigation merged with a profound sense of cosmic wonder. The technological feat of building these alignments in one of the most arid places on our planet cannot be overstated. It required not only a deep understanding of the stars, but also a resilient social structure capable of organizing labor and preserving knowledge across generations in an environment that offered no margin for error. Scientific studies have dated the glass itself to a staggering 29 million years ago, the result of a meteorite impact so violent it instantaneously melted the desert sand. For the ancient people who found it, this origin story, though unknown to them in scientific terms, would have been felt intuitively. They would have seen the glass as evidence of a divine, explosive event, a sign of immense power from the sky gods. This interpretation transformed the entire landscape into a temple, where a celestial impact site became the foundation for celestial observation. There is an anecdote of a modern traveler who, while crossing the Great Sand Sea, stumbled upon a small cluster of stones arranged in a perfect line. Following it, they found themselves at the edge of a vast field of the shimmering glass, just as the first stars of Orion broke the horizon. In that moment, the millennia collapsed, and the purpose of the alignment became viscerally clear. It was a bridge built by human hands, reaching from a cosmic event frozen in stone to the living stars above. So we are left to ponder, can a natural disaster, a violent collision from space, inspire generations of humans to build monuments to the sky? The Libyan desert glass sites answer with a silent, shimmering yes, blurring the line between a random act of the cosmos and the deliberate, awe-filled response of humanity. A library of stone holds stories painted in ochre and charcoal. The Tassili en-Naja Plateau in Algeria is a celestial gallery, its vast rock shelters covered in ancient art that does more than depict daily life. It charts the heavens. Here, a painted sun disk is positioned so that a sliver of solstice sunlight pierces the cave entrance to illuminate it for only a few minutes each year. Another figure, a mythical horned god, is bathed in light on the morning of the equinox. These are not coincidences but deliberate alignments, turning the entire plateau into a colossal pictorial calendar. The archaeologist Dr. Henry Lote, who spent years documenting these sites, called it a library of the desert, encoding astronomical knowledge through symbolism. For the prehistoric pastoralists who created this art, the sky was a living entity, a divine force that governed the rains and the migrations of the animals they depended on. By positioning their sacred art in concert with the sun's journey, they created a dynamic interface between their culture and the cosmos. The paintings themselves evolved over thousands of years, from early, simple engravings of cattle to later, more complex scenes showing chariots and elaborate rituals. This artistic progression mirrors a deepening understanding of the celestial cycles, a knowledge system painted directly onto the rock face. The practical uses were a matter of survival. In a climate that was already beginning to dry, tracking the precise date of the solstice or equinox was crucial. It signaled the arrival of brief rainy seasons, telling the communities when to move their herds to new pastures or when to gather for ceremonies that honored the gods of the sky. Preserving this fragile art is a constant struggle against wind, sand, and the subtle changes in humidity brought by even the most careful visitors. Modern conservationists use non-invasive techniques like 3D scanning to record every detail, ensuring the library's stories are not lost. There is a story of a modern Berber guide who still reads the panels not as ancient history, but as a living text. He points to a specific painting of a giraffe and explains that when the sun touches a certain crack in the rock above it, his people know it is time to prepare for the seasonal movement of animals. This oral tradition, passed down through generations, breathes life into the stone. How does rock art serve as this dynamic interface? It proves that the human impulse to map the stars is also an impulse to tell stories, to weave our myths and our survival into a single, enduring narrative painted with the very light of the sun. Beneath a grassy mound in Georgia lies a perfectly round chamber, a subterranean observatory built by the Mississippian culture over 1,000 years ago. This is the Okmulgee Earth Lodge, a sacred space where the very architecture was tuned to the heavens. Its domed ceiling, constructed from layers of earth and wood, features a single, precisely positioned smoke hole. On the mornings of the spring and fall equinox, a beam of sunlight pierces this opening, striking a carefully shaped clay platform in the shape of a raptor, illuminating the bird effigy for the assembled community. Anthropologist Dr. Arthur Kelly proposed that it functioned as a community calendar, regulating agricultural cycles and political gatherings. For the Muskogean peoples, this celestial event was a signal that day and night were in balance, a time to plant crops like maize, beans, and squash, and to convene important council meetings that shaped their society. The entire lodge was a cosmic instrument. The entrance passage itself is aligned to the winter solstice sunset, while nearby earthen mounds appear to track the moon's more complex cycles, creating a comprehensive calendar spread across the landscape. The construction required sophisticated knowledge, not of moving stone, but of weaving together natural materials. They built a sturdy framework of wooden posts, then packed clay and earth over it to create a durable, insulated structure that has endured for centuries. This was a communal effort, reflecting a society deeply invested in a shared vision of time. The site fell into disuse and was slowly reclaimed by the land, but in the 1930s, a Works Progress Administration archaeological project undertook a massive restoration, carefully reconstructing the Earth Lodge to its original specifications. This painstaking work allowed a modern ceremony to take place. Every year now, on the equinox, people gather inside the lodge before dawn. They sit in silence on the carved clay seats that line the circular wall, just as the Mississippian chiefs and priests once did. As the sun crests the horizon, its light streams through the smoke hole, and for a few brilliant minutes, the raptor effigy glows with celestial fire. In that shared silence, the ancient calendar still marks the time. How do Earth-based monuments differ from their stone counterparts? They feel more organic, as if the landscape itself is participating in the celestial dance. Archaeology demonstrates that the materials matter less than the intention, proving that a chamber of packed earth can hold the cosmos just as powerfully as any ring of granite. A mountain in West Java rises like a giant stairway to the stars. Gunung Padang is a terraced pyramid of ancient stone, its 5 levels carved into the volcanic peak, each step aligned with the celestial dance above. Far from a barren desert, this tropical highland held its own stark environment, a cleared and elevated landscape that served as a perfect observatory. Certain key stones on the uppermost terrace are positioned to frame the exact point where the sun rises on the December solstice. Other alignments point toward the distant, conical peak of Mount Gede, using the volcano as a natural horizon marker, and may even track the brilliant star Sirius as it appears and disappears throughout the year. Geologist Dr. Danny Hillman Natawajaja has studied the site extensively, proposing that its layers reveal multiple eras of astronomical use, reflecting a long-term engagement with the sky that spanned generations. This was not a single construction project, but a living, evolving sacred space. For the ancestral Sundanese people, this mountain was a place of powerful spiritual convergence. They likely built it for ancestor worship, believing the high altitude brought them closer to the spirits and the gods of the sky. The precise alignments wove astronomical observation directly into their rituals, creating a calendar that governed both agriculture and spiritual life, telling them when to plant rice and when to honor their forebears. Controversy surrounding Gunung Padang only deepens its mystery. Excavations have revealed that the visible stone terraces are just the surface of something much larger. Ground-penetrating radar has mapped extensive chambers and deeper structures hidden within the mountain, suggesting a complex built in phases over millennia. This has led to fierce debate, with some researchers arguing it could be one of the oldest structures in the world, while others urge more caution. The local community, however, has preserved a living connection to the site. There is an account of a modern ceremony held during the solstice period. As the sun rose in perfect alignment with the ancient stones, elders performed rituals, their chants echoing across the terraces, seamlessly blending present-day faith with an ancient celestial calendar. So how does Gunung Padang challenge our narrow view of desert monuments? It proves that the drive to build celestial timekeepers was not confined to arid wastelands. It flourished anywhere a culture found a clear view and a compelling need, transforming a lush volcanic mountain into a timeless instrument for reading the heavens. A sandy ridge in Virginia holds stone tools from 15,000 years ago, placing human presence here long before the Clovis culture we once thought were the first Americans. This is Cactus Hill, a windswept site that was a semi-desert during the last ice age. Amidst the evidence of ancient hearths and carefully crafted spear points, researchers found something even more intriguing: stones arranged in lines and patterns that seem to track the sun. If these alignments are indeed human-made, they represent the earliest known celestial timekeeping in the Americas. Archaeologist Dr. Joseph McAvoy, who led the excavations, cautions that the evidence is subtle but profound. He notes that these alignments, if confirmed, would push back the timeline of New World celestial knowledge by thousands of years. The potential alignments correspond to the solstice sunrises, suggesting the pre-Clovis people used the horizon as their calendar. One particular arrangement of quartzite stones forms a line that points directly toward the winter solstice sunrise, a pivotal moment in the yearly cycle that would have signaled the deepest cold and the gradual return of the sun. For hunter-gatherers in a harsh, dry landscape, this knowledge was not abstract. It was essential for survival, telling them when to follow migrating game or when certain plants would become available. The debate over whether the stones were placed by human hands or by natural processes like glacial movement is central to the site's mystery. Skeptics point to the lack of obvious ceremonial structures, while proponents argue the specific angles and the choice of distinctive stones amidst otherwise random debris point to deliberate intent. To test the idea, a team of experimental archaeologists once tried to replicate the proposed alignments using only tools and materials available to the pre-Clovis people. They found that by using simple sighting poles and observing the sun's path over a single year, a small group could accurately mark the solstice points with stones, creating a permanent reference for generations to come. This experiment suggests that the cognitive leap required for such timekeeping was within the reach of these early inhabitants. The implications for understanding human migration are staggering. If these people were sophisticated enough to build a calendar, they possessed a complex symbolic culture as they traversed from Asia into the Americas. Their journey would have relied on celestial navigation, using the stars to guide them across vast, unknown landscapes. Cactus Hill, therefore, is not just a campsite, it is a potential landmark in the story of human cognition. What can these earliest alignments tell us about the human mind? They suggest that the drive to find patterns in the cosmos, to measure our existence against the turning of the Earth, is not a product of advanced civilization but a fundamental part of who we are, a spark of celestial curiosity ignited at the very dawn of our time in this new world. An egg-shaped ring of basalt stones rests in the Victorian grasslands, a silent witness to an unbroken tradition of observation. The Wurdi Yuang stone arrangement, built by the Watarong people, is Australia's answer to the great celestial clocks of the world. Its elliptical form is not random. Its major axis is perfectly aligned to frame the setting sun on the winter solstice, while other key stones mark the summer solstice and the equinoxes with stunning accuracy. Astrophysicist Dr. Ray Norris has meticulously studied the site, concluding that this proves that Aboriginal Australians were keen astronomers, integrating the sky into their daily lives for millennia. This was a sophisticated calendar carved from the land itself, its alignments creating a precise map of the solar year. The larger stones act as permanent back sights, while smaller, carefully placed stones provided the exact sight lines toward the horizon where the sun would dip below the hills on its most important days. This knowledge was not locked away in a temple but was a living, communal resource. Elders would gather younger generations here, teaching the intricate lore of the stars through song and story, weaving astronomical events directly into the narrative of the land and its seasons. The practical application was immediate and vital. Knowing the exact timing of the solstices and equinoxes told the Watarong when the boggon moths would emerge, when the tuber roots were ready for harvesting, and when the fish would run in the nearby rivers. The stones were a library of survival, their alignments dictating the rhythm of hunting, gathering, and movement across country. The construction itself is a testament to deep local knowledge. The builders used dense, local basalt stones, carefully selected and positioned to withstand the elements, creating a permanent fixture in the landscape. This was not a single act of building but a long-term project, refined and maintained over countless generations, its purpose and meaning passed down orally. Today, Wurdi Yuang is recognized as a vital cultural heritage landmark, protected and revered. There is a story of a modern community gathering during the winter solstice. As the sun sinks low, elders and children stand together within the stone ring. The elders point to the western horizon, explaining the old stories as the sun touches the exact point marked by the ancient axis. In that shared moment, the past is not a distant memory but a living practice, a chain of knowledge that remains unbroken. How does Wurdi Yuang enrich our understanding of global astronomy? It shatters the notion that sophisticated celestial timekeeping was the sole province of pyramid builders or megalithic cultures. It reveals a parallel path of discovery where a deep, spiritual connection to country produced a calendar just as precise, proving that the human desire to read the heavens is a truly universal language. These mustatiles rise from the Saudi desert as colossal rectangles of stacked stone, their open courtyards silent under the sun for over 7,000 years. Their long, low walls stretch for hundreds of meters, forming vast processional pathways that seem to lead nowhere, yet their builders oriented these structures with a celestial purpose. Specific openings in the mustatiles frame the rising of brilliant stars like Canopus or the delicate Pleiades cluster, turning the entire desert into a stage for cosmic events. Researcher Dr. Hugh Thomas, who has led extensive surveys, suggests they may have been pilgrimage sites where groups gathered to observe the sky and reinforce social bonds. For the Neolithic pastoralists who built them, this was more than stargazing. It was a ritual that wove the community together under the heavens they all shared. The alignments are precise, the long walls acting as giant sightlines toward the horizon, while internal features like central chambers and standing stones might have marked solar events such as the equinoxes. This created a dual calendar tracking both the steadfast sun and the seasonal stars, a system vital for survival in a challenging environment. These monuments were constructed during a period known as the Green Sahara, when the desert was a more hospitable grassland. The pastoralists who roamed here with their herds of cattle depended on knowing the subtle shifts of the seasons, the timing of rare rains, and the best periods for grazing. The mustatiles provided that schedule, their celestial alignments dictating the rhythm of migration and gathering. Modern archaeology is now unlocking their secrets from the air. Teams using drones and satellite imagery have mapped thousands of these structures, revealing patterns and orientations invisible from the ground. This bird's-eye view confirms the staggering scale of the building project, a network of observatories that required coordinated labor across a vast territory. The debate over their full function continues. Were they primarily ritual centers for animal sacrifices and feasts, as animal bones found at some sites suggest? Or were they territorial markers, their astronomical alignments serving to unite scattered groups through a shared cosmic language? The answer likely encompasses both, a fusion of the practical and the profound. There is a story of a modern Bedouin guide standing at a mustatile as the stars emerged. He pointed toward a gap in the ancient wall, explaining that his grandfather had spoken of this place, of how a specific star would appear there to signal a time for moving the camels to new pastures. This oral tradition, passed down through generations, breathes life into the silent stones. What role did astronomy play in early social organization? The mustatiles answer not with a whisper, but with a declaration that the human need to build together, to gather under the shared sky, is one of the oldest foundations of community itself. A field of standing stones rises from the Armenian highland desert, a silent assembly of gray basalt against a stark sky. Zorat's Kera, often called Karahunj, is a cosmic cemetery where over 200 stones stand guard, many pierced with carefully carved holes. These are not random apertures but precise sighting tubes, engineered to frame the sun, the moon, and key stars like Vega. The late archaeologist Dr. Paris Hiraouni dedicated years to mapping these alignments, concluding that this was a sophisticated observatory, one that predates Stonehenge by millennia. His work revealed how specific stones with these unique islets target the exact point of sunrise on the summer solstice, while others capture the winter solstice sunset, turning the entire field into a colossal, three-dimensional calendar. Further stones appear to track the more complex cycles of the moon, their positions potentially used to predict lunar phases and even eclipses. This was a place where the living came to measure the heavens, all within a landscape that also served as a sacred resting place for the dead. The Bronze Age builders interred their loved ones here, weaving ancestor worship directly into the fabric of their astronomical observations. To stand among these stones was to commune with both the departed and the cosmos, a belief that the human spirit and the celestial bodies were eternally linked. The construction itself was a monumental feat of persistence. Using stone tools, they quarried, shaped, and drilled into the hard basalt, creating those crucial sighting holes with a patience that seems superhuman to us today. Each perforated men here was a testament to generations of accumulated knowledge, a permanent instrument carved from the very bones of the earth. Preserving this ancient wonder has been a challenge shadowed by modern political tensions in the region, yet the site endures, its silent stones transcending contemporary conflicts. Every equinox, its enduring power becomes clear. A group of modern Armenian astronomy enthusiasts often gathers there before dawn. They huddle near one of the key stones, waiting as the first sliver of sun appears on the horizon. As the light grows, it passes directly through the ancient hole, casting a brilliant, focused beam onto the ground. In that shared, silent moment, the calendar still works, and the connection across 40 centuries is palpable. How does this highland desert observatory compare to its more famous Eurasian cousins like Stonehenge or Karnak? Zorat's Kera stands as a powerful, independent testament to a shared human impulse, proving that the drive to map the heavens was not a single invention that spread, but a brilliant idea that dawned again and again, wherever people looked up at the stars and sought to bring their order down to earth. Long before the Maya watched the stars, the Olmec people were mapping the heavens from Mexico's ancient coastal plains. In the humid lowlands, they raised colossal earthen mounds and carved massive stone heads, creating the first great astronomical tradition in the Americas. Their sacred centers at San Lorenzo and La Venta were not just cities, they were cosmic diagrams laid out on the earth. Archaeologist Dr. Ann Cyphers has spent decades studying these sites, and she explains that these alignments reflect a complex cosmology where rulers mediated between earth and sky. The Olmec elite positioned themselves as the crucial link, their authority derived from an intimate knowledge of the celestial order. The entire layout of a site like La Venta was a grand alignment, its central axis oriented 8 degrees west of north, a deliberate angle that tracked the sun's zenith passage. On the 2 days each year when the sun passed directly overhead, casting no shadow at noon, it was a moment of profound power. This event signaled the imminent arrival of the heavy rains, a directive for the entire society to begin planting their maize in the revitalized soil. This was astronomy as the ultimate agricultural calendar, but their gaze extended beyond the sun. They were also fascinated by the planet Venus, the brilliant morning and evening star. Certain structures and stone arrangements appear to be aligned with its extreme rising and setting points, weaving its predictable cycles into their mythology. The Olmecs associated Venus with their powerful jaguar deity, a symbol of the night and the underworld. The appearance of the planet in the sky may have been seen as the jaguar's celestial eye watching over the world. Their technological ingenuity was remarkable. At La Venta, they used specially selected magnetic stones in their constructions. Some of the massive basalt blocks, transported from great distances, contain high levels of magnetite. Researchers have found that certain carved monuments have magnetic anomalies concentrated at their north-south poles or on their surfaces, suggesting the Olmecs might have been aware of these properties and perhaps even used them as a crude form of orientation, feeling the pull of the earth itself to align their sacred spaces. The excitement of modern discovery brings this ancient knowledge to life. there is a story of a research team at La Venta using laser theodolites to map the site with millimeter accuracy. As they fed the data into their computers, a clear pattern emerged that had been invisible from the ground. A long, buried platform was not aligned to any cardinal direction, but instead pointed directly toward the horizon where the Pleiades star cluster would have risen around 1200 BC. This cluster was deeply significant across Mesoamerica, its heliacal rising often marking the start of the new year. To find this alignment confirmed that the Olmecs were integrating stellar cycles into their cosmology 1,000 years before the Maya codified their famous calendars. What can the Olmecs teach us about the origins of New World timekeeping? Their silent mounds and magnetic stones reveal the deep roots of a celestial tradition, proving that the desert's impulse to build in harmony with the heavens was a seed that would grow into the magnificent astronomical empires of later ages. A perfect circle of wooden posts stood in a landscape as open and stark as any desert. The Goseck Circle in Germany is a sanctuary built nearly 7,000 years ago, its gates precisely framing the low arc of the winter solstice sun. For the stroke-ornamented ware culture, this was the heart of their world, a place where the community gathered to witness the year's pivotal turn. The southeastern gate perfectly captures the sunrise, while the southwestern gate frames the sunset on that shortest day, creating a corridor of light that bisected their sacred space. This alignment was a matter of survival in a cold, challenging environment. Archaeologist Dr. Francois Berthimes calls it a communal center for celebrating the sun's return. The sun's rebirth promised the end of deep winter and the slow return of life to the land, dictating when to plant and when to harvest. Other openings in the circular palisade may have tracked the moon's cycles, integrating the softer light of the night sky into their calendar. Building this observatory required a sophisticated understanding of the horizon. They used the natural landscape as their guide, marking the sun's extreme southern journey with these wooden gates. The entire structure was a colossal clock, its ticking measured by the creeping movement of sunlight and shadow across the central ground. Reconstruction efforts have brought this ancient clock back to life. Using the post-hole patterns left in the earth, researchers rebuilt the wooden palisades to their original height. This allows a powerful connection for modern visitors. There is a story of a winter solstice gathering at the reconstructed circle. Hundreds of people stand in the cold, pre-dawn darkness, their breath misting in the air. As the sun finally crests the horizon, its first golden rays stream directly through the southeastern gate, cutting a brilliant path through the center of the circle. A collective hush falls over the crowd, a shared awe that transcends language and millennia. How does Goseck illustrate the spread of astronomical knowledge across Europe? It stands as a northern cousin to the desert monuments, proving that from the sands of Egypt to the plains of Germany, the human need to track the sun and mark its turning was a universal drive, a brilliant thread in the fabric of early civilization.